You have created a monster and it will destroy you.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
I don't know what the heck's going on here, but someone needs to get their asses kicked.
I'll be back.
What's your favorite scary movie?
This one looked at me.
Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human!
You have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel like it? Well, do you, punk?
Why so serious?
You're listening to Unhinged with Kiriakos Vilchez.
What do you say? I want you to be my VP. I want you. You're my vice.
Well, George, I'm the CEO of a large company. And I have been Secretary of Defense. And I have been White House Chief of Staff. The Vice Presidency is a mostly symbolic job. However, if we came to a different understanding, I can handle the more mundane jobs, overseeing bureaucracy, military, energy, and foreign policy.
Yeah, right. I like that.
When you have power, people will always try to take it from you, always.
Nothing can break me down. I'm the man.
So we're gonna do this thing, or what? I mean, is this happening?
I believe we can make this work.
Hot damn.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
My name is... Yeah. Oh, well, you cut off my intro, goddammit.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay.
I'm excited to be here, man.
No, I'm excited that you're here with me. So, welcome everybody to Unhinged with Kiriakos Vilchez. And I'm joined here by a good friend of mine, the smartest man now east of the Mississippi, Mr. Sandeep. How you doing, Sandeep?
Don't even bother, because it's going to be too difficult. Let's call me Sandeep C.
Sandeep C. Okay.
There we go.
Right.
After all these years, you still can't pronounce my last name. I figured, let's just not bother now.
It's one of those ambiguously difficult names.
It is. It's only 9 letters, and it's South Asian, but it starts with a C. It's only 9 letters. Ends in an I, so it could be Italian, but when you see it couldn't be. What if you see the names like that? There's no way that's Italian, but it has those characteristics. It ends in a vowel, starts with a consonant. C of all fucking consonants. Yeah.
It sounds like a dish that sounds really good, but you're hesitant.
I guess yeah, it does. Yeah, like I don't know, like if you go to, I think some of the stuff that what's his name ate. What was that guy? The strange foods guy, Zimmer.
Yeah, but no, isn't it Anthony Bourdain?
No, Anthony Bourdain was a depressed guy who just ate everything, and he died.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, there was a guy, a bald guy. Wasn't he bald or something?
Why am I thinking of Emerald?
He wasn't bald. What are you talking about?
I don't know. Okay. All right. So before we start, I did want to ask you if you saw that Napoleon trailer.
Napoleon trailer? No.
I know that I saw that you liked it on my Facebook.
Oh yeah, I did. I forgot that I saw it though. Sorry, I did see it and I did like it, but I didn't. I forgot. I forgot. I liked it when I saw it. I forgot. But I forgot it now.
All right. So
you don't bring it up.
In terms of,
you don't pull it up and take a quick peek at it before we get started.
Yeah. Pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up on my end.
Okay. Napoleon movie trailer. 2023.
Yeah, so I was actually pretty surprised that they casted Joaquin Phoenix in that and as Napoleon.
But
because he's like 20 years older than Napoleon was during the events of that movie.
Right. Well, Napoleon was fairly young through the years. He didn't start.
Oh yeah, he was in his.
No, actually, no. Hold on. I think we might be wrong here, because I remember Napoleon actually waited a while before he got his big break. How old was he? Because his first big engagement was to put down a revolt or something, and I forget how old was he when that happened. Was he that young? See, he died.
I feel like he was.
I kind of always vision him as this weathered old guy. So he died. He was born in 1769. So let's just say 1770 to 1821. So 30 years, 52 years old he was. Well, I guess
when he died.
When he died, yeah. I guess he wasn't that old. I guess he wasn't, huh? That's interesting. I always envisioned him being an old guy, and in fact, I'm looking at his Wikipedia page. But there's a picture when he's 23. He looks fucking young. But then every other picture you see of him, he looks weathered. Like he looks like he's fucking aged. Like he was
stressed.
Well, that's what I was like these presidents. You see these presidents like fucking George W. or Obama. They're before they like take their oath, they seem like these happy, youngish looking guys, and then by the end of 4 to 8 years, they're haggard. They have bags underneath their eyes. They're wrinkled up, and their hair's all gray.
Because the office ages them like 20 years.
Yeah, so I guess in that case, Joaquin Phoenix wouldn't be a bad pick, right? Because he's weathered. Now, is this his entire life, or is this just a section of it?
Well, it looks like they go through his participation in putting down that revolt.
Oh, wow.
And then we see Egypt.
Oh, Egypt.
And I'm pretty sure they cover Waterloo.
Oh,
so
really?
they kind of go through everything.
Okay, so I'm going to play it right now. I'm going to give you an honest to goodness fucking reaction this time. None of this bullshit Facebook like, hey, I love you, Kiriakos. Hold on a minute. Let me just sort some of the volume issues here. I forget that YouTube volume is independent.
They want you to go deaf.
Yeah. France, 1770.
How dare you send the chaos in the streets?
Okay.
We must make an example, or France will fall. What would you do if this assignment of defense was transferred to you? I promise you brilliant successes.
Oh, Ridley Scott. Fuck me.
Yeah.
How did I forget this? God, I'm too busy these days.
What is this costume you have on? This is my uniform.
Okay, that was weird. That chick, that was weird. Her hairstyle was not fitting.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
As the course of my life has changed. Napoleon.
I'm destined for greatness. But those in power only see me as a sword. I suggest you take the throne as king. Shall we vote?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna pause right here, like a little more, like 2/3 of the way through. Yeah, I did like this fucking trailer because I mean, it's this whole epic thing. We've gotten very good at the epicness of these sorts of things. I think of like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, and adding that to history, like Gladiator. I think was a good beginning for this sort of epic battle scene thing. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw it, it instantly reminded me of that kind of grand spectacle that Oliver Stone went with when he made Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
I can kind of forego the historical inaccuracy of having most of the people not sounding French.
I was gonna get to that, but go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought, and then I'll.
But it's not as egregious as that Netflix Cleopatra docuseries.
Oh God, you had to mention that.
I mean, that was just like
it's not
without going too much into it. That's like pure fan fiction.
You shouldn't have brought that up at all, because that's a whole nother fucking conversation we could have. That was.
Oh God, we could go on for like 4 hours dissecting that.
that I didn't see much of it. I saw the reviews and I said, okay, I'm going to take a look at it. I watched it for like 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm done. I'm canceling my Netflix account. I'm done. I'm done with these guys.
You know what got me? It's that one old lady saying, "School told me that Cleopatra was right, but my grandmother told me she was black, and she was right."
Oh my! You know something. If people just knew the stuff that my mother and my grandparents told me was true.
Oh yeah.
It's just ridiculously. I mean, it's just. Oh God! That just tells us that maybe we should do a docuseries on Netflix about what our grandmothers told us was true in the past.
Halfway through, we would just give up. They fund all that crap.
I think we just couldn't contain ourselves. We just started crying. We'd be on the floor rolling. But the last scene you see is us walk on screen, and we start dying laughing. We're on the fucking ground, unable to contain ourselves in tears.
And you know the crazy thing is, when it comes to their true crime or serial killer docuseries, they actually get that stuff right.
Yeah.
Like they got Ted Bundy right. They got Richard Ramirez right. But when it comes to actual like historical figures that did something pretty cool or great, they're like, "Oh no, we'll just pretend they flew."
I guess, I guess it's because no one really cares about history. People care about.
No, not anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, they care about criminals, and I mean this in the sense that we're all curious. It's this dark side of humanity. I mean, all of it, even from the petty thief to the serial killer. It's like, what motivates someone? Like, how do you do this? How do you plan this? Like, we're all curious about this sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Historical figures, not so much anymore. Yeah, it is what it is. Now, this trailer here, the historical inaccuracy that I was going to point to wasn't so much the accents. I can deal with lack of accents. Part of it's because some actors just can't do it, and why deprive yourself of a good performance because of that, right?
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
My concern more is definitely the battle scenes, and I'm not terribly familiar with sort of warfare in that era, this 18th century warfare, early 19th century warfare. But I wonder how accurate it is from an historical point of view. That's what always gets me, when things don't appear accurate. And I'm saying appear because, it's hard. First of all, historians don't know exactly how these things were done, but the closer you get to current times, they have a way better idea. So if you watch any battle scene from, like, let's say Alexander, right, the battle of Gaugamela, or the battle of the Granicus River, his first engagement against the Persians, it isn't known 100% what exactly happened in that battle. So you can kind of dance around it, and a little bit of inaccuracy is okay. But I'm thinking at this point, we have replicas, we have reports, we have a lot more data. So, for this to not be accurate would in my mind be just a terrible loss.
Oh no, I agree.
So
considering that they made a Napoleon movie like in the 70s or 80s,
yep,
actually called Waterloo, I think Ridley Scott should get some inspiration as to how accurate that movie was. And they can kind of go from there. I don't know.
Yeah, he could, but that's another thing about back then. Back then, it was a different kind of epicness. Here, nowadays, it's because we have CGI and we have effects, the epicness is really an epicness of motion, right?
Yeah.
I always felt back then the epicness was more of pageantry. You see lines and lines of men, and it's their uniforms, it's their discipline that you see, more than anything else. And it's the overall set. The men lined up, the cannons, the positioning of everything. It was more about that. Now it's all about fucking motion in a way that it wasn't back then. And that to me lends itself to a greater license with physics. Let's start there, right? And you might see things that it's not realistic, not because of technical limitations, but because no one gave a fuck, and they're like, you know what, this will look cool. So, anyway.
Hey, that's a good. You made me a believer in the art of practical effects.
Well, thank you.
No, I know, but I agree because back then they had no choice but to put as many faces on screen to kind of reflect what it felt like to be in that moment. You have thousands and thousands of men on a battlefield.
Yeah.
Facing each other down.
Yeah.
And you have the situation where how do you convey that to the audience where they need to believe that they're actually in that moment?
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like CGI, aside from fantasy franchises like Lord of the Rings or I can't even think of another one. Maybe Warcraft or something.
Harry Potter. But there's not battle scenes.
Harry Potter.
Lord of the Rings. Oh, not Lord of the Rings. I just repeated what you said. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah. There you go.
Seasons 1 through 5. Because I saw season 6 and I was like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? This is a disaster.
I still haven't got past season 4 or 5 yet.
Yeah, go as far as season 5. Don't waste your time with the rest of it. To be perfectly honest.
See, I'm torn because I like the dragon stuff. I like that she goes kind of ape shit at the end. I've spoiled it a bit for myself because I've seen clips of her like burning King's Landing to the ground. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I like this.
Well, sure, the scene is cool. Now, I haven't seen that scene because I decided not to watch it anymore. It's like you have to watch 40 to 50 minutes of this, and it's not just this one scene that you're watching, right? You do understand that, right?
No, I get it. Could you imagine if you were a poor homeless person laying on the streets of King's Landing, like your life is already bad in that time period, and then here comes a fucking dragon overhead, and it's burning the shit out of everything around you? Like, that's like a double whammy.
It could be, unless you're like, you know what, thank God this is over. Like,
okay,
it's kind of a cool way to go.
That's a great segue into Vice. I feel like that's going to be your stance. Thank God it was over.
Okay, so, you know what, we'll put the Napoleon trailer aside for now. I think, yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it. That's a.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with some Vice facts.
Yeah.
Okay, because this movie was one of those where it got a lot of critical acclaim, but it didn't garner a lot of financial success at the box office. Okay, so let me run some figures by you.
Yeah, please.
All right, Vice, released Christmas of 2018. Rotten Tomatoes score, 65%. Now that's from the critics. Audience score, 60%.
Whoa.
Now they operated on a budget of $60 million, around $60 million, give or take. Box office returns, $76.1 million.
Oh, that's not good at all.
No, it's not. It's abysmal. But here's the crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
22 major nominations, and it won the 2019 Academy Award for Makeup and Hairstyling, the 2019 BAFTA Award for Editing, and the 2019 Golden Globe Award for Best Performance by Christian Bale.
Oh, I can see all of those being warranted, though.
So, it's all warranted, but it's insane that even with the positive feedback from the audience, I mean, when you're in a 60 to 70% range for both critics and the audience, I would expect that you would make maybe 2/3 out of the initial worldwide box office run. not counting marketing or advertisements and sponsorships for the film or anything like that.
I don't think it's that hard to explain, actually. This movie came out in 2018? Was it? 2018, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, these events happened, they basically ended 2007, 2008, 10 years prior. I think, there's a usual fatigue that people have these days, but you've also got to contend with an attention span that just doesn't see past 3 to 4 years. And, it's old news. No one really cares anymore, That's what would explain it to me. And I think the people who went to see it were sort of people who believed and agreed 120% with the message. Now, I do agree with the message for sure. That what these guys did was deplorable, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were like either fatigued or there just wasn't the same interest anymore, because it's for us, those of us who are lucky enough to go into an air-conditioned movie theater in 2018, 2019, right? We were over it, as they say, quote unquote. I'm sure people in Iraq aren't, but we were.
Oh no.
Right? But we were, and I think that would explain it. I mean, that's what I would go with. Yeah.
I'm gonna read what Liz Cheney said about it.
Okay.
And this is from the Wikipedia page. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this was as quoted by one of those fancy, boozy, celeb mags or pop culture rags.
Okay.
So, and I quote. Okay, now I feel bad. It's Fox and Friends. This is a Fox and Friends interview.
Ah, nice.
So same thing. So, and I quote, Dick Cheney's daughter and Congresswoman Liz Cheney criticized Christian Bale for his portrayal of her father in Vice, remarking during a Fox and Friends interview that, quote, he finally had the chance to play a real superhero and he clearly screwed it up. Liz also responded negatively to Bale's acceptance speech for winning the Best Actor in a Comedy or Musical Golden Globe for his portrayal of Cheney, in which the actor thanks Satan for inspiring him to play the role of Cheney. I love that last bit.
That is funny, but it just goes to show, how it just seems like they were very disconnected, to not understand, why he wasn't portrayed as a superhero.
It's very hard for people now to understand how much the war on terror infected America.
Yeah.
I remember when that issued that ultimatum to Saddam in 2003 before he invaded. I mean, Iraq was pretty much my generation's version of Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like, we were going into a war that we didn't know why. We were being told by the government that 9/11 was not only concocted by a gaggle of terrorists, but that Saddam Hussein was helping them. And the Bush administration was pretty much having everyone fly high on that.
Yeah, the whole thing was tenuous. I was in grad school at the time, and I was driving over there, and I actually stopped in my car. I parked it, and I wanted to listen to Colin Powell's address in the UN, and I just couldn't believe what I was listening to. It was just ridiculous, the case he made. And it turns out in the end that he knew that this was bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want to be there, and he was one of the honest guy in that group. He's the one guy. He was probably the most honest. I shouldn't say the only solo, but definitely the most honest and straightforward. Whether you agree with his politics or not, he was an honorable man, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, compare Colin Powell to guys like Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, obviously. I mean, he was kind of like the golden egg in a basket of rotten eggs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because I'm the rotten eggs in my family, and there's the golden. Yeah, anyway.
No,
continue.
No, don't say that.
But
So,
yeah.
let's-
Yeah, so
Can you hear me?
yeah. So it
Yeah.
was
Man.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no. You know, it is a weird it is a weird thing that these guys got away with what they got away with. You know, and you know this just the disconnect and yeah. Anyway, they, you know, yeah. I mean, anyway, I'll let you pick up. Where you left off.
I know that we had to switch over here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Stu. So, am I kind of getting back through okay?
You're looking fine so far. Yeah.
Okay, good. So basically, that was kind of the world that we were jumping in on.
Yeah.
Well, that, you know, war on terror, everybody was afraid of terrorism, you know, the world's kind of going to hell in a handbasket.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Bush with the nudging and the pushing and the prodding of Cheney threw America into this war that lasted about, what, give or take, almost 20 years.
Well, Afghanistan did. Iraq lasted.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Afghanistan. Yeah, that's right. Iraq was like we finally pulled out like what 2011, 2012,
something like that. Yeah, but I'll tell you what. You know, I think Iraq, and it's actually mentioned in the movie. The terminology used, and I think with Iraq it was very egregious that it was called a war for the full time, and it wasn't. In Afghanistan, yes, it was a war because you had two belligerents. You had the United States and you had the Taliban regime. The Taliban regime was out of power, but militarily they were still intact and they're still able to mount a response. In Iraq, within a month, the Ba'athist army was gone. They were done. And what you were stuck with were fighting a bunch of very disparate, albeit slowly over time coalescing groups, armed groups, right? So you can make the argument, people make the argument, oh, well, you know, they're just ex-Baathists who went in, but that doesn't explain what happened in the south of Iraq with the Shia and the Mahdi army, you know, because the Shia and Saddam and the Ba'athist party didn't get along very well, right? So, you know, to call it a war after, you know, basically Bremer officially had that moment where he disbanded, the stupidest moment in American history, I think, where he disbanded the Ba'athist party. It was over. There was no more war. After that was an occupation, which is a very different thing. And that's where a lot of the pain came in, understanding that fact and what that meant. You know. You know, so just a little segue there. Sorry,
a little quick. Am I coming out on your end okay? Like, I think there's like a little staticky pop. Do you hear that? Am I coming out of your...
A little bit. If you want to turn yourself down a bit, it wouldn't hurt, but you're coming in really clear.
Okay.
Other than that,
So
clear. Yeah.
on your speaker, I'm coming in clear?
Fairly clear. If you want to turn it down a little bit on your end, that's probably okay. But you're coming in, the volume is fantastic. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so, I mean, that's where we were kind of at in 2003. And Cheney, you know, up until that point in time, was kind of the unremarkable vice president. Now, I say that in, like, the strictest sense where he was not as at the forefront, you know, like domestic issues. Him and Bush were kind of just going through the motions up until 9/11 happened.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think Cheney was probably more active. He had an agenda walking in, it seems like, right? Because he's a seasoned politician.
I mean, when it came to like the remarkability of that's even a word, of the presidency itself. Like, you know, some presidencies start off like with a bang. Let's say the most recent one is Trump, like out the gate, like there were just like, it was like a circus. I think Bush was kind of like that. Okay, people were upset that he won the Florida recount, but then I feel like they got over it, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I think you know, this is the beginning where the polarization started becoming very clear in the country.
Yeah, I get that. I can agree with that.
The level of polarization and really, you know, in 2001, everyone was patriotic, everyone was gung-ho. Nobody said, let's not go into Afghanistan. I'm saying, if you go outside and you talk to normal people and you just see people around, how how you gauge the public mood just by being around them, right? 2003, that was still there, but there were more people who kind of saw through this and thought, oh my God, what are they doing, right? Yeah. But you had episodes like, Britney Spears saying, no, I think that you have to support the president no matter what. The Dixie, and I'm using these examples on purpose. And the Dixie chicks saying, you know what, this is completely wrong. And then they get what modern parlance is canceled for doing so by the right. So, I think that we kind of forget. Your generation that probably wasn't aware because you were too damn young then. But people forget who were older. I was in grad school at the time, and what people were really like, and what it was like being in dissenting at that time.
Yeah, the closest I got to that sentiment was that I remember everybody in the class had unanimously chosen Al Gore as their messiah.
Really?
Because we were told to watch the televised debates, and whether or not it was like a bias on our teachers' end, but they want us to kind of introduce ourselves to the process of civics, right? Like to see candidates debate and talk about the issues and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I remember there were only 3 kids in the entire class that said they wanted Bush to win, and one of them, ironically, was somebody who was from Iraq. and his name was I don't know where this kid ended up, but his name was Saran, and he said that George W. Bush was a great American, and everyone was making fun of him because he said that he was never going to win, because obviously Gore is for California, that's blue country. But,
yep.
Bush wins, and Saran was like ecstatic, like he made like an Oscar level speech saying why he believed in America because Bush won.
It's ironic because he won partly because of who his father was. Or he got that far because who his father was. I think it's a terrible example of why America's a great country.
It helped.
I don't care if Democrat or Republican. Yeah.
Gore was a popular vice president because I feel like because Bill had that cult of personality.
Oh, Billy Bob! I love Billy Bob.
And Gore kind of attached himself to Clinton's popularity with the average voter. But Bush, on the other hand, was kind of an everyman type, right? Because everyone felt like, you could sit down and have a beer with Bush. But,
Republicans thought that at the time. If you weren't a Republican, you thought he was dumb. I hate to say it so bluntly, but he didn't seem like a very forceful and intelligent statesman. If you're on the other side,
No, I mean that's where it started. Everyone thought he was blubbering through his.
The left thought that. The right did not. They were, and that you hit the nail on the head. Exactly why they liked him so much, because he was so relatable to them. I remember this girl told me, I can see myself, making dinner and having a conversation with W in the kitchen. I'm like, that's a criteria for being president.
Yeah, but to Americans, like your everyday, 9-to-5ers, people take care of their kids, their families, people just trying to make it.
Yep.
It's those sweet, either it's sweet nothings or sweet somethings that draws them to the polling place and makes them believe like, hey, this guy actually cares about me. And as time went on, other presidents would try to utilize that, Obama, Trump. Mm-hmm. I'd say that the least successful, but apparently the most successful according to the numbers, was Biden. I have no idea how. The man is like a walking bubby. The only I guess relatability he would have is if you had a super elderly relative that is really nice, but then he says a lot of crazy shit.
That's
and then you know that you're only visiting him for like 30 minutes, and then you're going home.
Yeah. I can only think the only demographic that he'd really stick with is a nursing home demographic. Like I don't see him, like, yeah, I don't know how he pulled that off, but I think it's a different time now. I think a lot of the ways you look at things are just a little bit outdated.
Oh yeah, from the Reagan era to the Bush era to passing for Obama, and then now everyone's a Trumper when it comes to Republicans, and then if you show an inkling that you even think any idea that Trump puts out is okay, you're apparently a racist, nationalist, white supremacist.
Oh, you're all of it. Kiriakos, you're definitely a racist. I mean, I think just looking at you, I can tell. You don't have to open your mouth. I just yeah. Your name gives it away. I mean, you have to be a white supremacist.
You just reminded me. I need to go dry clean my SSU.
I was gonna get to your last name, but okay, fair enough.
It's not even. It's like I want the top tier Hugo Boss. I want the black sheen to it.
But going back to it's funny because what ended up happening was that people started seeing that this whole this guy's relatable. There was a moment I remember doing a press conference or one of these town halls where this woman asks, W, that listen, I'm working 2 or things, whatever jobs it is, number of jobs, and this and that, and blah blah blah. My life's basically miserable. And then he goes, oh, you work 2 or 3 jobs. That's very American. We're very hardworking people. And the callousness and the BS that was coming out at that time, I think that's kind of what helped get Obama in power. Right? People at that point were fed up. I mean, you got places like West Virginia, I think. There were some red areas that got carried by Obama. And we can go down this tangent because we're definitely going down a tangent now. And let's not do that because there is a movie that we discuss.
I almost forgot. Like, what are we talking
It's like we're talking about interesting stuff, but there's a movie that we need to talk about, right?
But that's where this movie is brilliant. And then I also have my own qualms with it because this is where you can't have a conversation about Cheney's legacy without bringing up all this stuff, even if it's in an entertainment form of media, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is the reason why I like this film and it's good. Like I enjoy this film. It's like it's entertainment. I like the approach that they took. However, the ambiguity of the direction is what got me because it's kind of like making a satire of Hitler but then playing it off as a real serious downfall-esque movie. So this is what I feel like Adam McKay, the director, he dipped his toes a little bit too much into what he did with like movies like Anchorman and Step Brothers, and then try to apply that to Cheney, where he wanted Cheney to be taken seriously sometimes.
No, see,
we'll kind of go through that as we go along.
Okay. Is it too early to throw my 2 cents in now, or should I hold off?
No, we can start where. I mean, I don't know if you want to start with what you liked about the film, what you didn't like. I mean, we can
let's do that. Let's say the punchline for like an hour later. We've bored the people enough with political talk. They've hung on for this long.
Like an hour in, they're like, okay, so what was in the movie?
What are we talking about again? I thought I was here to fucking listen to movie review. So anyway, I think the strongest part of this movie was the acting.
Oh yeah.
Christian Bale, he Batman the fuck out of it. I should say he Bane the fuck out of it. Like he had that voice, it's the same voice he had in the movies, but it fits Cheney perfectly. I'm not faulting him for it, but he knocked Cheney out of the park. His mannerisms, the makeup, it was brilliant. The way he spoke, and this. You watch in the very early scene, he's drunk, he's getting into fights, and he definitely does a very good job portraying that type of person, right? Rumsfeld, again, Steve Carell knocks it out of the park. Fantastic, snarky, unhinged, just, douchebag kind of guy, right? Even W, the guy who played W, I thought he did a very good job. He looked the least like the character he was supposed to portray, but I think he acted pretty much in line with what you'd expect from W. So
off the bat, we're gonna have a little bit of friction here. But let let me start off.
The good kind or the bad kind?
Oh no, it's always the good kind. It's always the good kind. Because we just have different opinions. It's not like I'm gonna start writing a blog about you. You know.
I love the attention actually, but yeah.
So, starting with Dale as Cheney.
Yep.
Perfect. Like I'm with you like 150%. Like if you're gonna watch this movie, watch it for his performance as Cheney because he embodies everything about the man. The cadence, the mannerisms,
his
the way
walk.
he reflects.
His
Everything.
walk.
It's a master class in character performance, and I feel like Christian Bale's like one of those few people still doing it nowadays, where it's like when he gets into character, you pay attention. I don't care if everything else in the movie might be garbage. He's not gonna.
No, that scene where this is trivial, but when he's in the bathroom brushing his teeth, I was like, wow, I still think it's Cheney. You know, the way he droops his head forward, he has a slump. It's just, I'm just like, wow. You know, it's like, yeah.
Amy Adams as Liz, passable. I mean, she again, Liz Cheney wasn't really. She's not one of those. I guess second. What do you call the wife of the vice president? Second lady or something?
Probably, yeah. No one.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't really like one you remember.
Right.
So I feel like she did okay for what they gave her in the movie. Maybe sometimes it felt a little fantastical that this was the same woman kind of watching him like abuse some of his power. I know that they showed the caring aspect of the relationship, but I don't know how she could kind of like watch him like dig a ditch for America and maybe not give him more of that pushback like she did earlier on his career when he was a drunk.
I'm gonna leapfrog here because you mentioned not Liz Cheney. What the hell is his wife?
I'm sorry,
Lynn Cheney. Yeah, Lynn Cheney. Lynn Cheney, and she's a character that bugs me the most in this movie because in my mind, when I watch this movie, she should occupy a much bigger spot in this movie than she does, and she occupies.
Relegated.
What's that?
To like it felt like she was relegated to like a super supporting role. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't as present as she could have been.
I think that's a lot of it's because they just don't they don't flesh her out. Because think about it, all of these characters, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bush, even Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, these are all people that we're familiar with. Not intimately, but we know who they are. We've heard them speak multiple times. We've read articles about them. We've seen them on TV and newspapers, right? She doesn't have the exposure, right? So you don't have this automatic fleshing out of her character. You really have to put some work into writing stuff about her. And I think that there's a lot, the characters themselves are portrayed well. I mean, from an acting standpoint, I don't see any problem with what Lynn was doing. But as a character, she comes across flat, and I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of this movie. Downfalls may be too harsh of a word. Gaping holes in this movie that, she's central because, you start with this guy who's a drunk and a bit of a brute, and then, you assume that this is why he turned it around and set himself straight and did all these great things. But that relationship isn't really explored in any detail.
And I wish they did. Yeah, that's how I felt.
It was very disappointing, and it was very disappointing for me.
Like I feel like they give us more of that near the end when there's friction between him and his daughter Mary, and her being lesbian and Jamie, coming to his own views on gay marriage and all that stuff. But yeah, aside from that, there's not much for her in the meat and potatoes of the middle of the plot. Where it's like, what was she thinking during some of these pivotal, I mean, it's just glimpses and glimmers of things that I wish were there, but they're not. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so the thing about that, and you bring up his daughter being a lesbian, right? The whole thing about it is that moment should really be jarring to everyone, because here we have Darth, the Emperor himself, Darth Cheney, right? We're all familiar with this guy. but he's not. Because you lose the element of his wife. He's really not fleshed. Even he's not as fleshed out as much as he could be. So what should be a really jarring moment, like how could this abysmally evil person care about anyone, let alone someone who's gay, right? It doesn't hit you the way it should. I mean, think of it this way. Think of it as watching a scene of Adolf Hitler giving a Jewish baby candy that isn't laced with strychnine. It's jarring. But that's not how you feel when you watch this. This isn't like, whoa, I didn't, you shouldn't be able to wrap your head around that.
And I feel like it's, or to go back to my previous point against McKay, for all his accolades as his comedic director, this is where I feel like he shouldn't have done that with this movie. Like he should have really sat down and thought to himself, with a performer like Dale, do I want to make this black comedy, or should I play this straight like a biopic with these comedic moments, But off the bat, like he establishes this film as a satirical look at Cheney, when there are these moments that the public, whether or not they're familiar with the Bush years and Cheney, should be kind of made aware of, because it is, it's public record, and it's well documented that Cheney did give his party pushback on that because of his daughter and because he cared for his daughter, and they kind of played off like he was kind of an asshole about it later and he didn't care about it, and I just wish they didn't play fast and loose with that, which McKay would went a different direction. Obviously he didn't.
Well, there's also the aspect where they're very nonchalant with their use of power. So Rumsfeld and Cheney are shown to be very in multiple scenes. When Kissinger's in Nixon's office, it's like, what's happening in there? And I'm paraphrasing hard here. But basically, it's like, what's going to happen? They're going to decide the fates, thousands of people, where they decide there tomorrow morning. They're talking about bombing Cambodia, that's what it was. And tomorrow morning, thousands of people in villages all across Cambodia are going to die. This idea that these guys have access to unhinged power, and then all of a sudden they do this, but it doesn't strike you the way I think it should. Kind of like, what really struck me, using the Darth Vader analogy for Cheney, was Return of the Jedi. Granted, I was a kid then, but when I first saw it, but when Luke sort of gives up and he lets Darth Vader just electrocute him, and he's yelling "Father, Father," and then just that whole ending. Darth Vader was this evil character, and that whole ending, because these guys have been fleshed out to the extent that they had, you really feel something. It is a bit jarring to watch this evil, malevolent character all of a sudden break down, right? We don't see something even, you can't expect anything like that necessarily in this sort of setting, but anything like that. You set this guy up as evil, but he's assumed. You walk in the theater, you pay your ticket, you walk in the theater, you assume he's evil because we all know the story. Nothing new is being brought in. And that, that's why I don't like that Lynn Cheney was so poorly fleshed out. And really, in a lot of ways, Dick was too, because you never know about his past and his family life. Why was he such an alcoholic and a brawler the way he was? Why was he an underachiever, right? That's another part that's kind of missing, and what about him? He's sort of seen or portrayed as a sort of brute, but a brute doesn't get this far in life. I don't care what you think of his moral basis, his morality. He got pretty far. There was something going on upstairs, and it wasn't just Lynn. Lynn, to me, seemed like she hit a spark and she put some fire to his feet, But yeah, this is where the movie really starts falling apart, and you talk about how, what genre is this really? And you're right, I agree. It's hard to, say we're going to have a dark comedy and then be sort of a documentary, but you have a better chance of pulling it off if you flesh out your characters. Because the more intimate you are, it's easier to get jokes that actually work, I would think.
Well, here's where I'm going to run through the gambit with the casting, because that's where my biggest gripe is. It's because of this rolling effect of what I feel is miscasting for certain individuals with certain actors. So I too enjoyed, Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld, because looking back at kind of, what the late Secretary of Defense, who he was as a person, he was a big jokester. That's what they say, in press conferences and things like that. He was kind of a big jerk in many respects. But Steve Carell's just playing Steve Carell.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where it's like, I was like, am I watching Michael Scott on The Office pretending to be Rumsfeld? Because that's exactly how he played it. And it was funny, but it was like, then you had him juxtaposition to Tyler Perry, who's well known for his Medea character being this hilarious person as this, outlandish fictional character, as he's playing an old woman.
Yeah.
And he's playing Colin Powell religiously. Yeah. True to form, where he's acting as esteemed as Colin Powell was. So it's kind of like, it's jarring even in the effect of, to the respect where you're looking at the casting. It's like, okay, it's even bled in through the performances. It's like his genre ambiguity. Is it supposed to be funny or serious? And it's like, you have Steve Carell next to Tyler Perry, and then you bring Sam Rockwell in his W. George W. is supposed to be a central player, and again, I enjoyed Sam Rockwell. He's, the role that comes to mind when I think of him, or I think Guy in Galaxy Quest. And just everything I've seen him in, he's been great. It's just, but I never believed he was Bush. I felt like he was just a really great imitator. If there was a movie I could compare Rockwell's Bush to, it was a movie in 2005 called Steve Arnold Run. And it was starring a German actor. You probably his face, the name that he knows. His name is Jürgen Prochnow.
Sounds familiar. All right.
And you Google him, you'll know who he is. Jürgen Prochnow. He also played in that Uwe Boll House of the Dead movie.
Okay.
As a ferry boat captain. I don't know why. I guess he had to do a favor for Uwe Boll.
Okay, I've seen this guy. He was in Judge Dredd. That was a fun movie. Let's see. Oh, he was okay. Now okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I can compare it to. That Rockwell was kind of this really good imitator. He was kind of this person where he was trying to encapsulate who Bush was, and you believe it's fun, but again, it's this, when you compare him to like the scary good doppelganger that is Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, you're kind of like, okay, I'm here for the cream of the crop, but then I see like the grits on the side. Nothing against grits, but it's everybody else is just there, while Bale's like really putting his heart and soul into it. I mean, there are other people, like the lady who played Condoleezza was okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are other roles that just screamed Adam McKay to me, that, Alfred Molina as the waiter, kind of breaking down what they wanted to eat, but it was all like terrible foreign policy
and torture.
That they should, we'll take some of everything. We'll take everything. And then you had somebody as a news reporter too. Naomi Watts as the news. I felt like those cameos were just there for, again, just serviceable Adam McKay-esque directing. Like, again, it didn't. Some of it was funny. Other was necessary. The biggest one, I'm like, I don't know why they integrated him in the movie as much as they did, was the narrator.
Yes.
What was his name? Kurt.
I forgot. It was a bit of, I forgot, but yeah, the narrator was a strange.
Yes. Yeah, Kurt, the Jesse Plemons character,
right.
The guy that's supposed to hold our hand as we walk through Cheney's life, I feel like we never really needed it. Like he was only there to just up the service value that this movie was a comedy and not a serious biopic. You know what I mean?
I think, in some respects, this movie was very lazy. It really plays on the familiarity that we have and just works off of those tropes. A lot of the things that you're diagnosing, in my mind, are because the characters are not written with any depth, right? And McKay can't seem to get away from the political message, which we're all familiar with. We're all on board. You don't have to rehash that to us. Do you mind if I spoil the ending with this narrator here?
No, and no, that's fine. And I was gonna expand on what you just said just really quick. Is that I agree with that theater sentiment. Like I don't think anybody walked out of the theater or got up from their couch after watching this and thought, oh yeah, Cheney is right. Torturing people in the name of democracy didn't make sense to help us fight terrorism. Just that overall sentiment. I feel like we were never going to get to that point because that's not what he set out to do. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not about getting to that point. So I think it's going to be very hard, for example, for me to come to that conclusion ever. However, what would make it difficult for me in how I view the man is to view him as a human being, a complete person, right? Again, he cared so deeply about his daughter that he was like, I'm a Republican, and we don't like, we don't want to give, gay marriage, this and that, but for her, I will do anything, including go against my party and quite possibly everything that made my life possible, right?
Yeah.
Why, in one of the earlier scenes when he's a congressional, what do you call those guys? A congressional aide, I guess, intern, and he's sitting there, and Donald Rumsfeld gives a speech, and the guy behind him taps him and says, "Hey, are you a Democrat or Republican? I'm asking because I want to work with the DNC congressman." And he goes, "That guy, Don, what was he?" "Oh, he's a Republican." Goes, "Okay, well then I'm a Republican," right? It seems so superficial, but again, you're not fleshing the guy out. You're just confirming what we all thought of this guy. He's an evil, power-hungry guy. He's going to follow the crowd as long as there's a dollar sign at the end of it, right? He's never fleshed out. I'm not looking.
It's a good moment. It's a good moment you brought it because that actually never happened. So that moment where he says, "Well, Trump told someone that kind of nudged the direction of being Republican." Cheney had already established his ideals until that point already. Like he wasn't, just some like starry-eyed, bushy. What's that saying? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Oh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed freshman. Yeah.
Like you didn't walk into the halls of Congress and just think, oh, who is this? Blue? Who is this? Red? He already knew, the inner work. I would say the inner workings, but he knew how the system worked, and who was for what and what did they believe in, and is this more that McKay has a problem throughout the movie, just tying him to stuff like that. Stereotypically, you think, oh yeah, okay, Republican. There's a connection to like these moments related to like the opioid crisis and immigration and all kinds of stuff that, like, acting like, okay, Cheney made a lot of mistakes while in office, but there was a lot going on in America before he got in, and a lot of things got a lot worse after he left under other presidents that had no relation. And it's funny that we put some of that stuff that's relevant in the Trump era into the Bush era, acting like Cheney was somehow like the Palpatine that manipulated everything to get us to that point.
Well, I mean,
just to kind of sprinkle that, he wanted to sprinkle more of that salt on the wound to the point where it's like the entire salt shaker's emptied out.
And you're numb, like you don't want to feel anything. And again, this is the problem. And look, I'm not looking to see that something very bad happened in those 8 years, right? Something really. In a lot of respects, and they do a good job of telling us what we know already. And the one new thing that I got out of it was the unitary executive thing. Okay, that's but I was aware of the concentration of executive power. But it just so many, and I want an explanation. Really, and I'm speaking very frankly here. This movie just basically, to me, 2.5 hours of confirmation bias. I can live with a Dick Cheney who really, really was a true American patriot who just got it wrong, despite how wrong he got it. But they don't even want to give me that. So, for example, you say how he sort of, it wasn't a spur of the moment choice or so self-serving. He actually was a Republican. He believes in stuff. He's not power hungry or no, he's a human being, and he has principles. May not necessarily have to agree with them, but he has principles, and this gets lost. And this again, I'm gonna repeat myself quite a bit, and I do apologize, but this is a cookie cutter character at the end of the day. Christian Bale knocks out, and I'll say that again too. He did a fantastic job of portraying him, but it was the physicality of Chaney that he did, because there's nothing given to him to flesh this out even more.
Again, it goes back to who Adam McKay is. Like we were never going to get something like, and it works in some ways for this film where it wouldn't work for another figure or another type of approach, because McKay just said screw it, even if there's ambiguity in my film when it comes to the genre, this isn't like Oliver Stone's JFK or Clint Eastwood's J. Edgar. This is not going to be a drawn out political postulating beast. It's just going to be, it's a serious guy who did serious things, but we're going to make fun out of it, and then maybe here and there we're going to sprinkle in some seriousness so that you kind of understand that he was this real person that did these things, and they mattered negatively to a lot of people. But I feel like it's his background. McKay's background is his greatest Achilles heel. It's like you can't just switch gears in your head from like Anchorman or Step Brothers and The Big Short to jumping into something like Chaney. It's like making, like you said, that Hitler reference you made. It's like somebody like the Wayans brothers making a serious movie about Hitler, but then that they're going to sprinkle in a bunch of wheat jokes and
yeah,
it's. I think the only thing that I could compare it to would be maybe again a See Arnold Run, or that likeness thing, but that movie had the same thing. They made Arnold a caricature instead of like they ran the marathon through his life, coming from Austria, being an actor, a bodybuilder, running for governor, but they didn't look at the gravitas behind every phase in his life where the audience could understand he did things for certain reasons, not because he's just funny sounding, strong man Arnold. You know what I mean? Like he did, like that he had values and ideas that mattered, and he wasn't this caricature, and whether or not you agree or disagree or like or dislike Chaney, you have to give the individual the benefit of the doubt that they are human being first, right? They are human being first, and they're not going to come out of the womb perfect. Obama and Chaney, everyone started out the same way. They all started out as babies, children. They developed into these adults with these different ways of doing things in their lives, and sometimes in their own minds they did things for the what they thought were the right reasons, like you mentioned. Like he was an alcoholic. He had his life in shambles. He managed to turn that around. Usually they tell people to pull up their bootstraps and turn their life around. A lot of people can't. He did that. Yeah. And he wasn't from some esteemed.
We don't know.
They went into his family.
We don't know.
They barely. It was like they barely mentioned anything about his family. They mentioned more about Lynn's family, where they kind of ruminated on some weird, which is also false. His mother-in-law, her mother did drown, but she wasn't ambiguously murdered by the father. And she confronted him at the cemetery like it was something out of Goodfellas. So it wasn't anything like that.
Don't come near my daughters again.
It wasn't anything like that.
I'm glad that you when you said that we're all human beings, you mentioned that starting point is babies and not clump of cells. So thank you for doing that.
Well, that makes it a lot more difficult when I'm not going to say I don't want to go that dark.
No, I think we're pretty much in agreement, but that brings up an interesting possibility. At least in terms of analysis of the movie. Like, okay, it's not a documentary because that's not what Adam McKay does, right?
Yeah.
How does it work as a caricature? Because there are such things as caricatures that are done on purpose, right? Where you want to lampoon someone on purpose. And I know I haven't thought about this until now.
This is how he does it. Like there are several scenes throughout the movie. One big one in particular where I feel like they played into the manipulative well, it's a good way of showing the audience, you know, the bait, they show Chaney fishing a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like fishing's a big part of who he is. Like he waits, he casts that lure out, he waits for his moment, you know, to reel that fish in. His conversation with Bush about what he would do as vice president, for a moment it looks like they kind of break the fourth wall, and Bale is kind of laughing, or Chaney's laughing, like uncharacteristically at something Rockwell said during that scene at the very end, where they kind of all sound coming from that scene. So the ridiculousness of a man convincing the presidential candidate that they pretty much do everything else aside from the president's job, what he's mentioning, everything that the president should be doing, is kind of a caricature in itself. They're blatantly calling Bush the puppet, right?
Right, yeah.
They do it again at the end in that meta version where Chaney, and it feels more grounded and serious, and I wish they did this more. Maybe they should have gone that route instead of the, you know, again, the Jesse Plemons, the heart donor that apparently, God forbid anybody should need a heart, even Chaney himself, you know, like for some reason they make the audience think that somebody paid that truck driver and
Yeah!
So that Kurt loses his heart, or he dies so he can give his heart to Chaney. Like, you know, just that, like, it's something out of He-Man. Like, what is Chaney?
It was so Pizzagate, like this ridiculous conspiracy that really, you know, could never be true because it's just too goddamn complicated and weird to actually happen.
Like, if anything,
you know,
like he unintentionally humanizes Chaney a bit more than he wants to, because, you know, nobody should be suffering. Like, I think he had like 2 or 3 heart attacks before he had a transplant.
Yeah.
He was going to die. And it was by, you know, heart transplants aren't 100% guaranteed.
Nope.
You know, he could have got a heart from somebody and it could have failed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wouldn't have taken. So, yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, so they're saying that the villain saves himself by being sick? Because he didn't manipulate anybody. He just happened to he was on the list to get a heart donation.
Well, the innuendo is there.
The innuendo.
That this was somehow done on, like, conspiracy done on purpose, or at least that, you know. I remember the scene in the hospital when he goes, no, Dick, you're not going to go. His wife, Dick, you're not going to go. And the doctor's like, okay. She's like, no, basically, you're going to get him a heart, period. This is not his time. You do what you need to take. And then you got to think between, like, these are very powerful people we're talking about here, right? Maybe I'm reading too much into the ending, but I found that to be it could definitely invite a lot of conspiratorial thinking, that this is a guy who was purposely killed by Liz Chaney in this case because she didn't want her husband to depart yet. And so it was like, the doctor's like, we don't have a heart. You don't know how hard it is to get a heart. I just can't. Oh, no, actually, we can summon a heart very quickly. I'm a Chaney. I'm his wife. I can get shit done. You think torturing people in Guantanamo is bad. Wait till you get a load of this. Right? That's how I felt about that. It's a bit outlandish.
Well, no, and it takes away from the moment at the end of the movie where he's saying goodbye to his family, right? He's lying in the hospital bed, and he's telling her, he's telling Lynn, you know, be good for my daughters, and I love you guys, and it's a real tearful.
Yes.
It's a power. And I liked it. I'm like, okay, look. Yeah. I'm like, look, this guy can direct a serious scene where you understand that this is a human being, you know. Again, when, like, you set aside all your convictions about him, but then the next moment they turn him into like a Voldemort type villain, like he just happened to obtain a heart out of nowhere, and it's like this circus of tonality, and it feels so goddamn weird. It feels so goddamn weird, and it feels like he robs us of, you know, again, what Bale is trying to do with the characters. I feel like Bale in his mind is like, I'm going to play this guy like I am him.
Yeah.
Like, the director might be telling me to nudge myself into situations where some of his personality might feel comical, but he plays the character straight throughout the entire thing. But it's everyone around Chaney and the editing and all this other stuff that makes it feel like we should just have a big old laugh at it, you know, and it's like, it's almost like it veers into sometimes it veers into Quentin Tarantino level of tongue-in-cheek. And I'll tell you one moment. What scene was it? So the beginning. So when he's speaking to staffers, right? And they're showing these interlays of like all this terrible stuff on screen, like random like hyenas eating and all these animals. Like I'm like, we get Cheney. It's like that hand holding. It's like we get. Gears are turning in his head that he wants America to be at the forefront of fighting whomever we are that we're fighting, and he's going to try to use all the tools at his disposal, and he's an opportunist. Of course he's an opportunist. We get that. You don't have to lay on the barbecue sauce once you're done eating the barbecue. It's like you're done with your meal, and then McKay comes over and just dumps a bottle of barbecue sauce on the plate and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, eat that too in case you didn't get the taste right."
Yeah. But you know what? That brings me to something, a point I was trying to make earlier. That caricature in itself is a genre, and I'm wondering if McKay is being deliberate in all this. And the reason why I say this is because there's this at the end they roll the credits and there's a little scene that's embedded within the credits. They had that focus group. Remember the focus group?
Yes.
And that one guy who says this is a liberal. There's something wrong. This film has a liberal bias. Then and the guy was so like stereotypically Republican, big, heavy set, probably had an Islanders jersey on or a Rangers jersey or something like that, or New Jersey Devils. He seemed like he's from New Jersey to me. And there's this stereotypically looking liberal guy saying, "Oh, that's because your facts are all wrong," or whatever. And he just pummels him, But it's almost like he's admitting that this is a caricature. This is heavily biased. And I'm wondering if that's the little joke in there. And that maybe the real crime here isn't the lack of depth in the characters and really a missed opportunity to explain something which really hurt this country for decades, right? Yeah. But that was the point. It was supposed to be caricature, nothing deeper than that.
And that's where my again, and I'm torn because I really enjoyed this film because it's one of those. It's kind of a looking glass into the past, in a point where I can remember. I mean, I was throughout the Bush presidency. I was in elementary and middle school. I remember the political turbulence of that time. Like everybody hated the war. Everybody hated, like terrorism was on the lips of everybody. Everyone was on 9/11. Everyone was in 9/11 mode. Everybody, the fight against gay marriage, the fight against legalizing marijuana, immigration, like these were the core domestic things that were going on.
Yep.
And it would have been nice if somebody else had taken still Bale. Like you don't remove Bale. Bale's the anchor. But I wish there was a different captain, and I wish there was a different ship. And that's where I can't, like, when we get to the ratings, I can't rate this higher than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because McKay's just too comfortable being himself.
Right. No, yeah. Well, the thing is this, is this a good caricature? What makes a good caricature? And this is something that I really didn't think about. But, I think the question is really what makes a good one versus a bad one. And I think, again, to pull it off well, you do need to make this a human being. Otherwise, what are you breaking down, really? And the point of a caricature is to make fun of someone, right? To sort of pull them down. If you don't present them as a human being, the fall is a little bit anticlimactic, I would think. Am I on a track here that makes sense, or am I kind of skating on thin ice with this?
No. And it's the content that we're giving, right? So let's kind of going through the right. Let's just kind of touch on the writing, right? Because that's where your point has a lot of validity. Because the writing in this film is like we get from point A to point B easily to kind of give the audience that idea that this is something that we should care about, right? Like we see Cheney, he's like the unassuming political personality. He climbs up the ranks, among Washington's big wigs. We see him kind of navigating Washington, rubbing elbows with people in the Nixon administration, then navigating through Ford and Reagan's eras, and then, struggling with his his daughter's sexuality and being acceptance of it, and kind of being a maverick in a way against people who try to go after him for his daughter and defending her in a way. But then, yeah, it's like it's that steady jog through all these pivotal moments that you would think that we should have more depth to, and it's only because of Bale that we do, and then everybody else around him is pretending that they're just, they're in the circus. Like, that's why I call it a circus act. It's like Steve Carell thinks he's playing Michael Scott playing Donald Rumsfeld. Tyler Perry has been injected with like Academy Award juice, so these like I enjoyed Tyler Perry as Colin Powell. Maybe like he was probably my second or third favorite character in this movie.
I would actually put him second. I think
I even enjoyed Condoleezza, the lady played Condoleezza Rice, because she played it like straight like that. That's where I was like, McKay just it's like okay, so here's the equivalent. We're making a film, right? We cast George Clooney as Warren. Okay, he plays Warren.
Oh, this is way too specific of a analogy for mass consumption.
The person that would be listening to this would be Oleg. So we have George Clooney play, like, let's say okay, well, I'm gonna bring up that tragedy with the Ocean Gate submersible, because the guy Stockton Rush, right, the CEO. Let's say George Clooney plays him in a future film, and he plays Stockton Rush with a T, like the egotism, the adventurism, like everything about the man. It's like he's playing the character as he would if he were the person. But then you bring Jack Black in to play as one of the passengers, and throughout the movie, he's making jokes and acting like he's doing School of Rock under the sea. You know what I mean?
No, that's actually a fantastic point. Yeah.
who's reading which script, and are they all getting that? Like, the direction is muddled for everybody. It's like Christian Bale's on one page doing a serious movie, and then here comes Steve Carell on the next page making jokes about Tyler Perry being a sissy ass or whatever he called him. So like, and then Rockwell's Bush in the Oval Office telling him, "All right, that's all right, settle down." I'm like, is this a sketch? But then here comes Chaney again, and Christian Bale's like, he's so good at scary. So it's like your mind doesn't know what to laugh at or what to take seriously.
Yeah.
And I can't stand that for movies. It's like I'm gonna bring up movies like Alexander or other movies where it's like, yes, you can have comedy in a serious movie, but don't mix the genres where the audience starts forgetting what movie they're watching. It's like you're watching Lord of the Rings, Aragorn saying a speech about Mordor, and then here comes Sam and he farts.
Yeah, or he's like really drunk. He's like, hey, you know what? I'd fuck that Arwen. I'd get up in that.
It takes a certain sophistication for a director to make a serious film with comedy in it where it feels genuine. And I just don't think McKay, who's great at being a comedic director, should have been given the keys to somebody like Chaney's, doing Chaney's life, because it didn't hit the way it could have. Like this, I mean, had enough. Let's say Martin Scorsese.
No, I think before you continue, I think you bring up a really, really strong point about how even as a caricature it fails, because you don't know when to laugh. Right, this weird, clunky interchange between Christian Bale and basically what I would say the script. It is clunky, and it does take away from that, right? Yeah. So I'll let you continue. I just want to get that in there. Saying I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it's a brilliant point. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I feel like it's basically what people go to film school for, like George Lucas is, it's like you can bring up any, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, there's a tonality that a film has to keep, or else it becomes a parody, right? It's like it's such a slippery slope to go from a biopic into a satire if you don't have the right person at the wheel. And I feel like this guy wasn't the right person. He had moments where he was forced to be, but then I don't think he wanted to be, because it's like you can't. It's like, are we going down the road when we get a movie about 9/11? Are we going to have like the pilots like making jokes with the terrorists, or like the terrorists breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's who Jesse Plemons was for me in this movie. It's like he didn't need to be there. We didn't need to have our hand held. You know, I don't know if they made this movie for people that just really hated Cheney and they just didn't care, or people, the Gen Z generation that had no idea, you know, just who he was. And I mean, I don't even know what the demographic was. Can you think of it? I mean,
I would think it's people my age and a bit younger than me, early millennials, late Gen Zs, Gen Xs. That's what I would think.
But even me, like, we didn't need to drag the boogeyman of Cheney out of Boston to make a point against because Trump and Bush were two different beasts in American policy.
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
You're looking at Bush, a moderate, center-right, maybe sometimes teetering into just right politician.
He was also
long legacy politics.
He's a neocon. Don't forget that.
Yeah, neocon, absolutely. War hawk. His father was more. I feel like his father had a more reserved hand.
Oh yeah,
Bush Senior. Yeah. Like he didn't break. Whereas Bush wanted to make omelets out of everything, you know.
With a hammer.
Bush Senior was sparing with his omelets. Like he didn't want to give them out to everyone.
Yeah.
Trump, on the other hand, I feel like the real, I guess categorically speaking, when he calls people like rhinos, Republicans, in name only, Trump, ironically, is that if you think about who he was as a politician, and who he still is. He's a, I guess you could consider him he is Republican, but he's a populist first. He's not ingrained within that sphere of Washington insiders that Bush came from, or Reagan, or any of these other people that spent decades in office just doing what I call the musical chair life of public service, where they just go from one role to the other, like our esteemed former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who's still undecided at 179 years old whether or not
she doesn't look a day over 150. Shut up. She doesn't look a day over 150, right?
Give up her seat, I call it the mummy effect. Like these people that have been there so long, like they're just like they're pyramids themselves. Like you're like, how long has that been there, and is it ever going to change?
You're a sad monument to yourself at that point. Like step the fuck down. Yeah, there's no reason.
And Trump is not from that world, and he was like the first real challenge to that status quo since maybe Truman, because I don't think Truman had a big political background either.
He didn't. Yeah. To me, I think to me, Trump is an old friend, actually.
An old friend.
Yes, an old friend. Yeah, we don't recognize him anymore because he's so goddamn old. We've had populist moments before in this country. He's an old friend. We've seen this before as a nation, at least. Maybe not as a generation, but Reagan may have come close on some level, but really, we haven't seen that in a long time. Trump.
He's also
Goldwater. Barry Goldwater was a populist. I would think.
Oh, that's right.
So we've seen this guy before. It's been a long time. He's this uncle that you met once or twice when you were like 5 or 6, maybe 7, and you kind of knew he's there, but you kind of forgot about him. And all of a sudden he shows up, and you're like, "Who the fuck is this guy? I don't remember him." You gotta ask your parents who this guy is, and why there was a reason why you haven't seen him in 20 years, right? But
it's also a crash course in the drawbacks of that cult of personality. We attach to people like Trump, whether it's other people like Obama or JFK or Mussolini, anybody. It's just that people who have these humongous personalities, and they're just people are drawn to them because of it, and they had these big lives before they went to public office. Trump is that big eye opener for people because before he ran for office, like people were like, okay, that's crazy Trump doing crazy Trump things. Like people actually loved Trump. If you go back and look at his record with celebrities, like it's amazing how everyone just switched off. Like they had no idea. He had any of these views, any of these ideas. I mean, they're going to dinners. Like I don't know anybody I go to dinner with and I have no idea what they believe in. Like, are they mute? Are they not speaking? Like, are they like comatose in the seat? Are we spoon feeding them pasta? I mean, how do people not know who someone is for 20 or 30 years, and then just miraculously they're abhorred by him. They don't know where he came from or how he changed. I don't think they just didn't have politics makes people a little loopy.
You know what Trump's strength is? People say he's a businessman. Do you know what his strength is?
No, go ahead.
He's a marketer. He builds brands, right? And his genius isn't political at all. It really is his ability. Well, I guess it is political because you mentioned Obama. I would also mention Billy Bob Clinton in the same breath as is called a personality, at least light in America that you see. JFK for sure, but he's a brilliant marketer, and you have to wonder. You're right that these people had dinner with him. They would hang out with him. How do you not know, right? And Dave Chappelle made a joke when Trump got elected. He goes, I'm not worried about Trump being elected. You know why? Because I'm rich. And I was like, he's got a fantastic point there. If you have money, that's who these people are for. I have a feeling that they all knew his views before, whatever they may have been. They probably just didn't care because they're all rich. They'll be fine.
Well, now we're. Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. Now we're gonna what?
Well, now we're in an age where your political affiliation now more than ever is either a career builder or career killer for a lot of these people in high-profile positions, whether it's celebrities or public officials or anything like. If you're associated with anything that the contemporary zeitgeist audience, whatever you want to call it, they don't agree with, you're going to be. And people throw the term way too loosely for my taste, but cancel culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people will say that for everything, but there is an effect to lambasting anything that you don't agree with, or if it's attached to something else. And if you're somebody who rubbed elbows with Trump before and you were seen favorably by him or people within his sphere, then you're obviously as bad as he is.
Yeah.
It's and that's kind of and in a way they've kind of helped they've helped stoke the flames of his base, because people are like, well, see, this is what he has a point on. It's that anybody who's against what the mainstream is about now, or the government, which is, the Democrats have been in power since Trump got into office. I think they gained the majority while he was in. So
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they've been at the top for a while. So this is why for people that are, I wonder, well, we tore down a bunch of statues in 2020. Why are things different? It's like, well, because these people don't want actual change. They just want more change in their pockets. That's how they've always been.
Yeah.
And to kind of use a boogeyman like Trump and pretend like that hasn't been the way of the political world is kind of naive. And that kind of brings us back to Cheney, where it's like Cheney's world was more tame and reserved when it came to Republicans and what they were willing and weren't willing to do in the public light. Now it's a whole different ballgame, and it feels like it's getting worse.
Oh, I would think it is. This whole thing began before Cheney. This sort of upping the ante, not talking to the other guy, this and that. This happened a bit before Cheney, but I think to delve too deeply into that may not be the best use of our time. What I do want to mention is that the movie being sort of this rubber stamping of pre-existing notions is very, very much a part of our age that we live in. The bubbles, right? You've been sort of talking about that, not in using the word, but you've been sort of talking about that. If you believe your thing and anyone else is just fucking flat out wrong and evil and should be burned at the stake. But it's a very bubble kind of oriented movie where you come in, you only go to that movie if you've already agreed with the point. I remember when Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, and I went to see it, and of course I was inclined to agree with the movie Michael Moore, right? But there were people there who were Republican. I remember these two chicks walking like, this is gonna be fucking hilarious, they said, and they sat down. The fact that it was outwardly partisan Fahrenheit 9/11 did not deter people from the other side going to watch it, even if not for a gag in their minds. They were still willing to pay money to sit down and watch it. I have to wonder if anyone who didn't agree would have paid money to sit down and watch it. You know.
You saw it because I think I suggested it, right? This was like months ago.
Fahrenheit 9/11?
No.
I was like, I saw it years ago when it came out in theaters. No. Oh, you mean Vice? Yeah.
Vice,
Yeah. This is your suggestion, yeah.
For me, I think the first time I saw it was on HBO Max, and I saw it with a friend, and she said, I think we saw Bohemian Rhapsody before or after, but I was kind of navigating through films I haven't seen, and I would, I made the mistake of going to the theater and watching Snowden. Do you remember that movie?
No.
And that one had the same problem that this movie had. They had Nicolas Cage playing somebody that was supposed to be like the guy that helped Snowden at the university, and same thing, tonality.
Yeah.
I walked out of that. I didn't even want to bother with that. I walked out. Only movie I've walked out in the last 10 years was Snowden.
Really?
Yes. It was that boring and that drab. That's why nobody talks about it, because it has kind of the same problem as this movie, but this movie was saved because of Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt he's, for all his acting and accolades, he's not Christian Bale.
No.
Yeah. So that's why this movie's remembered by people, because of his performance, especially by the Academy and all these other folks.
And I think that's actually deserved. I don't really believe that the accolades that are given are not deserved. You know.
Oh yeah, all those nominations, absolutely.
Yeah.
Christian Bale winning. The Golden Globe for best performance, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a brilliant piece of work, but it's more of a testament to the actor than anything else.
Yeah, not to the the story. The story writes itself. It's Cheney's life. The supporting roles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're just filled in by either people that are immense caricatures of the individual, or they're people being playing it straight, which gives the tone all kinds of ambiguity. And I still have a problem with that. But it's an entertaining movie. I enjoy it. I've seen it. See, I actually saw it again last night, just to kind of refresh some stuff. Refresh my memory here and there. But
same here. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'll watch certain scenes of the movie again. But the more I think about it, the more I watch it, it's terrible to say, the more I don't like it. I don't know if that's...
No, I agree.
And it's not against Bale, but the more I watch it, I see it for what it is, and I'm like, oh shoot, I wish this was just... honestly, I could have been a History Channel documentary with Christian Bale doing the same thing, and it probably would have won, I don't know the awards that they give to TV miniseries. It would have been, as good as, John Adams or something.
Well, I never liked this movie, right? And for these reasons, I just felt it just was way too two-dimensional, too flat. What would have made it? I think if it were on the History Channel, and it would be a much better movie. All they'd have to do to get to make this a movie worth watching is bringing what's his name, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Am I saying his name? Yeah, the Aliens guy, and just to come in and say Aliens, and that would make it a better movie than what we have here. I think. Christian Bale's brilliant. Christian Bale's he's absolutely brilliant, but he's the only one pulling his weight. Ultimately, I did not, and again, I did not like this movie. My primary reason is because the characters are way too two-dimensional. A lot is not explained, but I also agree very strongly that pick a genre and stick with it, or rather, do it right. I think that's really what it is, because it's so choppy. You don't know when to laugh. You don't know what the tone is. Sort of like you're being gaslit, or yeah.
No, and to Adam McKay's credit, in interviews, I saw a few interviews here and there, he gave one to, I don't know if it was Rolling Stone or someone else, but he said, yeah, people know what they're going to get with my work. He says, this is a black comedy drama featuring Cheney, so obviously we're going to take some liberties, but, come on.
They took a lot of liberties.
You're playing with, Cheney's in-law having a murder conspiracy. You're playing with Scalia telling Cheney that the unitary executive theory was a thing when it wasn't even a theory up until the 80s. So that conversation they had in the 70s had never happened.
Right.
Cheney didn't discover that he could become this absolutist in power one day. He was never, up until that point in time, he didn't manipulate his way to that point. It was after 9/11 that he started exploring what executive privileges somebody who held executive office could have, whether it's the president or vice president or so on and so forth. And that's where he kind of exposed that to his benefit, to Bush's benefit when it came to doing certain things that didn't need congressional approval. But I don't like how McKay just thinks it's okay to play Passalusa. It's like making again, I have to use somebody that people could kind of bunch up with Cheney, like somebody, Hitler, Stalin, anybody, that's, I mean, obviously, Cheney wasn't rounding people up and putting them on cattle trains, but
he was rounding up some people in Gitmo for sure, but it wasn't anything on the scale what the Nazis did. But I think someone like Stalin would not necessarily be too incongruous, simply because
too far off the beaten path.
Yeah, because Stalin, he was a man who wanted he needed to, but he
consulted. I'm not as well read on Stalin as I am on Hitler or other figures, but didn't Stalin really want to just consolidate power first within and then kind of expand his reach? Is that how he did it?
That was part of it, but he did what he had to do to win, and part of that was against the Nazis. A lot of the stuff that he did was support the war effort against the Nazis, right? That's a big chunk of it, not all of it, and a lot of it was consolidation of power. Because remember, who was there before him? Lenin.
Lenin,
right.
Yeah.
So he was in the unenviable position where he had to consolidate power and build something which might have some legs to stand on, right? And if you're an authoritarian, this is how you do it, right? If it's a democracy, talk about it's a different playbook entirely, right?
Well, you saw that little blurb, that little title blurb at the end of the movie, where it says that to this day the chief executive can refer to the unitary theory.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, wait a second, since
they are.
Bush left all.
But they are though. They are
for policy decisions, but to the effect that Cheney used it for Iraq and a lot of the stuff surrounding the Patriot Act, I don't think there's anything I can think of that reached that scope. Can you think of something?
Well, it depends on what your thoughts are, but some people would argue some of the COVID stuff.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean,
right?
Scare everybody to death that they're going to die if they don't put a mask on, even though they're 100 feet from their grandmother.
Right. Or just really, the big gripe there was the ability to work a job. Right, and it started with the federal. When the Fed said, you have to be vaccinated to work here, and people were like, well, you can't make me do this. Now, whether it's a scientifically valid stance or not, the point is really here, I think, the ability to say that. Right.
Well, it was definitely federal overreach. I won't say the guys because people were dying.
Yeah.
We had how many people? Yeah, we had a lot of people.
I think it was in hundreds of thousands, at the very least.
Again, percentage-wise, very, still very small portion of the population, but still the threat was real, so it's a public health situation, so that's different.
Right.
However, just like anything else, you can take a situation and turn it into an even bigger catastrophe. Like we had to look at education, the way children now suffer from the lack of social skills. They're behind in mathematics, English, some of the social civic subjects they should be better off in. The developmental years, like the younger children, they're stunted because of those, about 2 to 3 years of just harsh restrictions,
And also the people out of business. Amazon made a killing in all of this. Everyone else got blanked out of existence.
I read an article from the Chronicle, San Francisco Chronicle, that 40-something or 50-something% of restaurants, mom and pop owned restaurants, shut down in San Francisco because of the pandemic. 50%.
It wasn't because of poop, huh? On the
No, it wasn't 'cause
sidewalks.
the poop was part of it, but the poop came after though.
Oh no! It actually was. The poop map started like in 2017 or 2019, somewhere in that.
Oh, that's right. Isn't the one you can also find the nearest toilet that nobody uses anyway?
I think they're separate maps. I think those are separate maps.
Separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the world changed so much. I think that's a good one. I think you kind of met me at the bar there. That's something that's comparable.
But here's the thing. It's what he said is an earth shattering. If you have a tool, you're going to use it. If it's a tool, whether that you crafted yourself or somebody else crafted, you're going to use it. So the idea that somehow Cheney was the nexus of this unitary executive theory is complete nonsense. It was always there, and people in fact may have used it before. It just doesn't. The movie just lets it out there and doesn't actually explore it because it's meant to be a caricature. It's not really supposed to, it's not supposed to be factual. It's supposed to be partisan. I think the more I think about it, it's brazenly partisan.
Well, I mean, as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I haven't seen this much conspiratorial nudging in politics since the Phantom Menace. I mean,
yes. Or the Hunger Games.
This is like Palpatine, or the Hunger Games guy.
Yeah.
What was Donald Sutherland's character?
Oh, I forgot. Oh, damn it! I forgot his name.
He was the leader, right?
He was the leader.
That was behind all that.
Yeah, this weird. Yeah, it's a very strange world they lived in. It didn't make any sense from a practical point of view. But just to go back, the first administration to make explicit reference, this is from Wikipedia, is Ronald Reagan.
Okay.
So
in the 80s, right?
In the 80s, yep. 87,
yep.
As a matter of fact.
Yep.
And
that's when scholars started kind of really diving into the material, discovering, what that actually meant for the American public.
Exactly. So, I mean, again, this is a caricature. There's no nexus of evil where everything's emanating from. Evil's kind of around, right? And again, this is kind of what makes this movie really flat. That
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
And in the Trump era, do you think Cheney was the boogeyman to drag out to kind of play into the politics of 2018, 2019, or is there somebody else that McKay could have used, or another director could have used to kind of?
There were different.
I mean, was it?
There were different times in different parties. There's no way. No, Cheney was a neocon. Trump is the opposite of a neocon. He really was. And then you know what? If you're against the U.S. being involved in foreign wars, oddly enough, Trump actually might be your guy. He might be really quick to climb into bed with unsavory characters, but he might be your guy more than, for example, sleepy, ugly kid Joe here is, But no, they're different parties. You have to remember that between the Bush years and Trump, there was this filtering of the Tea Party, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so the party itself is probably very different than what it was under Cheney. Cheney's a career politician. Bush himself was sort of a career politician, but more legacy politician, right? Trump he's Mr. Trump Plaza. He's a real estate guy. He just, he had a reality TV show. Now he's going to do this. He's something different, and what he's appealing to was something different. Because again, there's a Tea Party period that changed everything. That, and also, I think some of the things that Obama did pushed certain sectors of this country, in a very bad way. And he was, Obama was no Boy Scout when it came to immigration either.
Can we pause for a moment?
Yeah.
I'll probably edit this portion out. Can you?
Yeah, so we're on the unitary executive.
Yeah. So if we were to, so you kind of, you answered my question. I think what I'm more kind of leaning into is that whose life story could you relate more to what, let's say, the political, I'd say turmoil or turbulence that Trump brought, aside from Cheney? Like, is there a populist maybe that could
Oh, yeah.
done?
Well, Bernie Sanders.
Oh, Bernie Sanders. You think like a biopic about him
yeah,
more appropriate?
He's a populist. Yeah, the big shift. This is resurrecting old ghosts. This movie, the big shift is towards populism. If you look at what's happening, I think our people are getting really fed up with the rich getting richer and the poor getting, and the middle class getting basically squashed into poverty, basically, and closer, ever, right? Ever and ever closer to poverty. That we're making it harder to access the middle class, right? Populism is a response to that. All of these policies, whether it was the neocons or globalists like Obama, basically pushed us here. Not necessarily because of anything intrinsically wrong with either policy. Now we can get to different conversation entirely. But more because the ill effects were not managed properly at the very least. You could also argue they're bad policy to begin with, but at the very least there was no mitigation of effects. So, I think the big shift is really populism. And the other big shift internationally is that we just want to stay home. And we don't want to deal with people who are too far afield anymore. A lot of people feel that way. And it's not just in the U.S. I think people feel that way more around the world.
I think I fear that long gone are the days of the public consortium or the halls of academia where people come in with they could have a blank slate or they could have a slate filled in, but they're open to learning from each other as opposed to vilifying each other.
Well, yeah. But I was speaking more. In the lines of political relation and economic relation. And less than that, but I know. I think there's a bit of that, but again, that's going to vary in the rest of the world. People, aren't necessarily people in all parts of the world aren't going through this same intellectual crisis that we're going through now, right? So you can't say that this is necessarily true of India or Turkey or Mexico, even, which is just south of the border, right? I don't know.
It's such a terrible thing that it has to be dubbed one, or we have to even think of it as one because it's how people are. It would be nice to live in a world where ideas can exist without the threat of people losing their minds over them, to the point where they start abridging the rights of others. I mean, but this isn't that the story of humanity anyway, though.
It really is, and I really thought that maybe we were on our way away. I really did believe that in the late aughts and early teens, that very early teens, that maybe we had turned a corner and we're really getting away from this thinking. But this thinking, I think, is very ingrained in our evolutionary history, this tribalism. And it's going to be hard to root out. I don't think that human beings can't. I think we can. That's our strength as a species, to innovate and do things differently.
That's one hill that I've like always died on in conversations with people, because they don't see it as an evolutionary biological aspect of human nature that we are this tribalistic, but we have this trajectory that we've been on for millions of years now. Yeah. There's these things that we do because of our DNA that no amount of cultural programming or pontificating or anything is going to change some of that stuff. It's like the otherness, the need for resources, the need for validation. Like this is species stuff. This isn't white stuff, black stuff, gay stuff, Christian stuff. This is human being stuff.
Yeah. It absolutely is. This is a species-wide problem, and I've always taken the stance that the way things are going with the climate and our resources, and now that we're pursuing this green energy policy the way we are, not that we're pursuing it, but the way we are pursuing it, and we're seeing like mass inflation around the world. This is a time when we really need to have more understanding and really get over that tribalistic instinct, and we're not doing it as a species, as a world. We're just not doing it. We say we are. We're given this set of talking points to say that we are, but if you look, we're really not.
Yeah, and I'm scared to think of what it would entail for us to get to that point. Hopefully, it's not a cataclysm.
Well, it will be a cataclysm.
On a global scale.
It will be a cataclysm, my friend.
Well, I mean, like I don't want to start knocking on wood here like a woodpecker. But, the threat of nuclear annihilation or some kind of planetary climate shift. The things out of our control as individual everyday people, like things where other people can make the decisions whether or not to save us and whether or not they have good or bad intentions. They don't, and we all pay for it. And it's not only us; it's other beings on this planet.
Well, but that's the interesting thing about people in power. They tend to be disconnected quite a bit from the people under their charge, right? That sort of disconnected thinking is natural. And you know something? They point to that in this movie, but you know something? It's not just these guys who think like this. Pretty much every rich person who's cloistered from the rest of the world thinks like this. Everyone in power. Nancy Pelosi, you mentioned her. That's a case in point. You know?
If you were to take the personalities of each character in Vice, right? Cheney, Rumsfeld, Bush, Rice, Powell. If you look at them as strictly, I would say static, but let's say cookie cutter traits that a human being can have, they all represent something that we all kind of have inside us, right? We have the affable naivety of Bush. We have maybe the manipulative cunning or opportunism of Cheney. We have the righteousness or the will to maybe try to do something by the cards, like Powell. Like I think if you were to look at the movie like those old Japanese folk tales where a character represents a good or bad human trait. I mean, there's one of them in all of us.
Yeah,
we're all kind of them, and that's maybe that should have been the message in a much more serious movie. I mean, again, a better director, better equipped with a history behind him could have done that. We didn't get that.
No.
I still enjoyed it. I know you didn't.
No.
Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get to the ratings? Or
let me take a look here. I'm thinking now. I think we've covered really the biggest issues that I have. It's just I don't think there's really anything else that we really need to discuss at this point. We've gone the gamut. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know we didn't touch on music. I think the score was nice.
Oh, the score! There was that teacup scene. That teacup scene. I'm like, what is that song?
Yeah.
And I really.
It's amazing. It's amazing that you never hear people ragging on a soundtrack in a movie. Like, I feel like the people who do the music for a movie, like, they're always like top tier. But then, even if the movie sucks or it's not as well received, so that's always nice that the music is on point. Is there one thing that you would change about the movie aside from the direction? Let's say casting, editing, maybe a scene that you feel could have improved the movie. Just one thing.
Yeah, I think there probably could be.
Maybe I'm being too broad.
No. Okay. I think you're not. I think you said, when Dick Cheney was being yelled at by Lynn, like, this has to stop. This is twice already. One, he goes, "I'm sorry, Lynn." He goes, "No, one time is sorry. 2 times is, it would have been a nice moment to have a flashback of Cheney's childhood or something that might have entered in his mind from his childhood at that point. Maybe he was thinking, "Fuck, I want to be like Dad, and I don't want to be Dad. He's an asshole." Yeah, that would have been. I think that would have given me at least enough adrenaline to keep going through the movie a little bit more, with a little bit more pep, right? But that's one moment which I felt was really pivotal to the movie, and a lot more could be explained there. But really, I think overall, there's no one point that I really think could have saved this film into having
I think I think that there are minuscule things that we can I would say minuscule, maybe minor things that we could adjust or move around to make it feel better, but there are just too many janky parts grinding on each other.
What would you suggest? Is there something that you find that could have changed? That
I think had even as wonky and tonally disheveled as the script is, I think the casting. I know I kind of go against my own rule here with the question. I think the casting has a lot to do with it. I'm sorry, but Sam Rockwell, maybe if he had played it more serious, like he wasn't as. Again, I just see him as a really good impersonator of Bush. I didn't see him as Bush, and it killed me sometimes where I wanted to see him as Bush, but I couldn't. But Steve goddamn Carell as Donald Rumsfeld. I'm still hung up on it. I cannot because you have him next to Tyler Perry, who's supposed to be, he's of Medea fame, and he can control himself where he's not, acting out and making Powell feel like he's ridiculous. But then you have Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld making jokes every 5 seconds. I'm like, come on.
Well,
I've seen either Rumsfeld was like Eddie Murphy in the 80s or not. And I don't think he was Eddie Murphy in the 80s. He was not that funny.
He wasn't funny, but he was cruel. He could be what we would say in today's parlance, verbally abusive.
I could see, again. I think a better another actor could have done that. I think maybe somebody. I'm trying to think of somebody that could have played him. Josh Brolin is too rugged to play Rumsfeld. He's too rugged of a chin to play Rumsfeld. Maybe I don't know, because Rumsfeld, you would see he would seem like he's this mousy,
mousy, but he's not.
He's not. Yeah, that's the thing. He's a tough. So, but I feel like you could have done a lot better than Steve Carell. I know there are people out there that are casting people. They go through the motions trying to find the right people, but I just don't think that. I think McKay just wanted to plug anybody in. That's why, to go back to like Alfred Molina as the waiter, I'm like, did we need Dr. Octopus there? That's, this 3 to 4 minute, That's what I saw, but I thought like Doc Ock coming out and saying, I'm like, come on! I'm like, who's gonna come out next? Willem Dafoe?
Oh, how about Crispin Glover? Here's a bit of a shot in the dark. Crispin Glover as Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah, he could have done it.
Johnny Depp can play Goofy and make it believable.
The thing is, Rumsfeld wasn't in it as like the script didn't have him doing these. Like again, if it was a much more serious script or a screenplay, Rumsfeld would have been like that kind of shadowy, soothsayer in Cheney's ear, saying, hey, we got away with this during the Cold War, and we got away with this during that, and I could help you understand that, and without saying it, but then you have Steve Carell like bashing people over the head with a soccer bumper about it. You're not going to take it seriously. You're just not.
That's true.
Oh my God, why are you such a hard ass?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's Saddam. We got to get Saddam. It would sound like something. He was hyping up a WrestleMania match.
I don't know. I felt that was it had a very Rumsfeld-esque feel to it.
I mean, it did, but
I really did.
Back and look at to a degree, but then you go back and look at how Rumsfeld conducted himself during that time. He was always tight-lipped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was tight-lipped even with people around him.
Yeah.
So again, it's McKay using his funny bone and kind of smacking the audience with whatever he had in his head, and then when he's forced to change tone, he doesn't really know how, but I'm just going to go with it anyway. Maybe the audience will figure it out. But then he goes the extra mile and says, oh, well, here's Jesse freaking Plemons to narrate the entire thing. Like, it should be a History Channel documentary, but it's not. And it's like, we didn't need his tongue-in-cheek crap, too. It's like, how much more sauce can you pour on this over-barbecued piece of steak,
Yeah, I mean, it is, yeah. I agree. It's a bit thick.
And again, like, I stand by that sentiment now, because the more I talk to you and I hear what you're saying about it, the less I want to watch it, the more I want to watch certain seasons with Christian Bale to kind of revisit just like, it is, because it's great to see somebody so enthralled and masterful in their role, whether it's on film or television or whatever. To watch the movie in its entirety, I don't know if I'm going to watch it again in its entirety. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times now, and every time I watch it, I like it less. So I don't want to watch it any more than I have to.
Oh no, I'm in agreement. I watched it last night, to refresh my memory, and I'm like, I do not want to see this again. If there's nothing that's ever going to be revisited for this movie, I swear to God.
I mean, unless there's some like, I mean, I could watch. To be honest, I could watch maybe something. But see, then again, they've beaten that horse to death. Bush, Cheney, because I lived through that. That was on the lips of everyone who hated politics at the time. It was just Bush is the warmonger, Cheney's Darth Vader, the war in Iraq is bad. It's just and there are movies that can bring you back to a time period where you're like, okay, I want to revisit this to learn about more of the complexities of that era. But I'm like,
this gives you nothing.
The 9/11 era is kind of tricky because after a certain point it just dips off, and then you jump into Obama's presidency. Obama kind of continued a lot of what Bush did. A lot of people don't like to talk about that.
Nope. Drone strikes. Drone strikes. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. That's a nervous tick of mine. I say drone strikes when I hear the name Obama. Sorry, go ahead.
What Bush did in Iraq and Afghanistan, the troop surge, I remember that. He brought more soldiers in. He was kind of a center left most of the presidency. It took him about a year to 2 years to admit that gay marriage should have been legal when he was saying it was strictly up to the states or something like that. I know that he was worried that he was going to be seen as too progressive, and he actually wasn't by character. He was actually pretty center.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But no, I think he definitely was center. He was not,
I mean, in terms of, I think in Obama, there's still some stuff in his legacy that we can revisit in film or TV that could
absolutely
to revisit.
I think going. I'm going to take back what I said about Bernie Sanders. In fact, now that I think about it, your question before would have been more appropriate. It would have been Obama, because again, during his what's his first? I think his very first term, we started seeing this Tea Party business come up.
Yes.
And well, guess who's responsible for today's Republican Party? It's the fucking Tea Party. That was the precursor. Yeah. So honestly, to do something about the Obama years and maybe some of the excesses there might have been a brilliant idea to really get people to understand and deal with through properly done humor, dark or otherwise.
Or if you want a movie about a maverick, somebody that
John McCain.
John McCain. You can appeal to almost every facet of the political spectrum. You could, whether it's veterans, whether it's progressives, conservatives. He was he was in every place at every time, taking very different stances on things, and he lived a very storied career of public service where he pushed back against the establishment. He pushed back against things that he didn't believe in. One thing was Obamacare. Another thing was I remember when during his candidacy for presidency, people were like at his rally saying, "Oh no, he's a Muslim," and he would stop like his supporters.
Yeah.
No, man, he's not a Muslim. He wasn't. He's not this. He was a man of immense character, and I think if you were to come out with a McCain biopic, I don't think many people would be either opposed or angsty about it.
Trump supporters see him as a rhino for sure.
I feel like we've gone through we've gone across the globe of topics like Carmen San Diego.
Oh, we have. It's been very scattered conversation. Yeah, I think there was a movie we're talking about, and the final thing was this rating that we're supposed to give it. Let's jump into the rating because it's kind of top this off because I think we've been at this for 2.5, 3 hours now. It's been 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with keeping all of it in.
Let's discuss that afterwards once we hit stop. Yeah, let's seal this deal.
I could do without my 50-minute slavery.
Well, we can revisit this. This is definitely not the be all end all. But I think it is definitely high time we tie a nice little neat bow around this analysis that we've been doing. So
reviews. Okay, reviews. I'll do you want to go first or I go first?
It's up to you. You're the host.
Okay. All right. I'll go first. Well, my convictions about this movie. The more I see it, the more I like it less, which isn't a good thing. I'm acknowledging that. And but I am saying that every time I've watched it, I have enjoyed it, and I feel like it is a good movie. It's entertaining, and it's one of those movies where you should watch it if you haven't seen it at least once, maybe twice if you're willing, if you're a big Adam McKay fan. I think it is one of those movies where you have to go in without any preconceived notions that it's going to be serious. So
Yeah.
With that being said, I'm going to give it a very soft 3 out of 5. And I say soft is because I'm only giving it 3 because Christian Bale brings it over that finish line for me. Without him, this movie is just like a bargain bin. Every free on Amazon Prime, like poor attempt at comedy. And I'm saying that as a fan of Adam McKay. It's like I think he was the wrong director. The stuff that he did work, and I think it was really levied by Christian Bale, and that's where I stand. I give this movie 3 out of 5 Florida recount votes.
Nice. You know, you are a beautiful human being, Kiriakos. You're very charitable and nice. For the fact that Christian Bale was in the movie and did the fantastic job he did, in my mind, the only redeeming quality of this movie gets, from me, 2 out of 5 weapons of mass destruction. And I didn't like it from the first time I saw it. I was never a fan of this movie. I recognized instantly how good Christian Bale was. I felt that the portrayal of George Bush wasn't that bad, and its shortcomings were really because of the script and the writing more than anything else. I do agree with you, and this is just another nail in the coffin more than anything else, that having Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld just made it a little bit too weird. But my biggest gripe is this very, very, very poor character development, and it could have made this way more interesting, way more engaging than it actually was. I have a feeling that if there wasn't going to be discussion on this, I probably wouldn't have watched the whole thing, because it was dragging and disjointed. So for me, it gets 2 out of 5 weapons of mass destruction, and I can leave it at that, or I can keep talking. Yeah.
I love that you went with weapons of mass destruction. I just want those recount votes,
Well, I think the soft 3 is grounds for a Florida recount vote.
Yeah,
so I demand a recount, Kiriakos. You said a soft 3. How soft of a 3 was it?
I'm forgiving because of Christian Bale. It's the forgiving aspect as the viewer that this man put his heart and soul in the character. I don't think I've seen there have been other roles that other people have played that have been to the T. I'm thinking of maybe Sean Penn as Harvey Milk, or Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles. There have been biopics where the person has really just become that individual, and I think Christian Bale kind of joins them. And I feel like on that merit alone, especially with all those awards that they had garnered, which are rightfully warranted, they totally deserve them. That's where I give this movie just a very, very, very easy, passable 3. Again, if you're a big fan of McKay, that's the only reason why I think that you go out and buy this. It's definitely worth the rental if you haven't seen it. Don't watch it too much, or else you may start slowly disliking it like me. If you want to watch certain scenes, go on YouTube. It's free. Just watch Christian Bale just doing his thing, entertaining. But don't watch it for Donald Rumsfeld. Just go watch The Office if you want to watch it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of bull shit. I'm sorry. The more I think about it, the more I get angry. He knew what he was doing. It's like I want to have enough money where I can make a bullshit movie and something serious, but then I go and cast I don't know. I guess Bobcat Goldthwait.
I think that's going a little bit too far there, don't you think, Bobcat Goldthwait?
I'm gonna have to pay the editor 3 times as much because I'm gonna have to subtitle the whole thing.
Pauly Shore. I think Pauly Shore is a better.
Pauly Shore as
Donald Rumsfeld.
I don't know. If you do have a chance, and we don't have to cover this, but that movie with Arnold starring Jürgen Prochnow.
Oh yeah.
Just tell me what you think of it. We don't have to do an episode on that, or do we don't have to cover that in depth. But that one's a winner when it comes to I never thought I'd see somebody playing Arnold where he looks like he weighs 150 pounds less than Arnold.
Okay, I've got to watch this then. I've got to watch this. I was actually thinking maybe Napoleon would be worth doing.
Yeah, I can do that. We would have to, you know, that's definitely a movie I would go and see because it is worth it, you know.
Yeah.
And then
I'm gonna stop this now. I'm gonna put my headphones back on, but let's keep chatting a little bit longer. All right. So this is ending of the
end of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me say why don't you say goodbye to the folks at home, Sandeep? We're not talking into the void. Eventually, somebody will.
Goodbye, folks at home. I hope you enjoyed the banter. It was very interesting for me. I'm glad that you had me on, Kiriakos. It was really just a great time. So.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome, and we'll catch you here again.
We'll
have a good time again.
I look forward to it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I will not apologize for keeping your family safe. And I will not apologize for doing what needed to be done.